I served an unapproachable God. No, I served the high priest who served the unapproachable God. But all that changed that night. I had heard about Jesus, the man claiming to be the son of the unapproachable God. And he was all the high priests could talk about in the weeks leading up to that night. That's what I call it now, that night. That night we went with Judas to the garden because he knew exactly where Jesus was going to be. When we got there, Jesus was upset. He seemed to be the only one awake. There were other men, his disciples, but it was dark and I couldn't really make them out. Then Judas went up to Jesus and kissed him. And I was standing so close that I could hear Jesus call him friend. That was the last thing I could hear. There was a flash and a warm feeling of blood on the side of my head. And I felt dizzy and, well, it was just hanging there by a thread. And then Jesus reached out his hand and touched me. I had heard about his hands, about his touch, about the healing that came from them. But it wasn't his hands, it wasn't his touch. It was his eyes that broke me. His eyes were filled with compassion and grief and joy. He took his hand away and, well, my ear was perfectly fine. Then we arrested him and we had the mock trial. We hurled crazy accusations against him, and he just stood there. Didn't say a word to defend himself. He just stood there with those eyes filled with compassion and grief and joy. We had set that night up to condemn him, and he just felt sorry for us. Sorry for us. And then the sentencing happened, and Pilate happened, and the crucifixion happened. No one could deny what was happening, the darkness, the earthquake, and then the veil. I was in the temple when the veil that separated us from the unapproachable God, split in two. Even I knew what that meant. God was inviting us in. The unapproachable God was now approachable. God was on the move.